All right, called to order a little late, 12:05. Do you have any citizen comments, Bill?
No.
No. Discussion items? No, really have any. This might be one of the quickest meetings we've ever had. Active agenda, the 2025 ADA transition plan. Last month, we all got to bring this home to look at it, bring back any input. Does anybody have anything they'd like to discuss, or should we like to adopt it as is?
Yeah, or you could modify it. Or request for it to be modified and bring it back to you, whatever you.
We had requested a modification at one point, which was for more explanation on the interview, and that kind of got done. Yes, Mark.
Well, it's a minor thing, but it is noted in the minutes. I pointed out that the chart on page 3 doesn't make any sense. The percentage is don't. So I did it here again. Now, the population with disability, the upper part of it, yeah, of course, that can add up to more than 100%, or in this case, more than 18.5%, because people can have more than one disability. But the lower part, people can't be in more than one age group, can they? No,
Yeah.
they can't. And those three numbers add up to 116% of the population, and you're not even counting 0 to 4. So I don't see how that can.
Yeah, these numbers
They're-
come directly from the US.
They're a percent of the total population, not of the total disabled.
Percent of total population.
So like,
But that doesn't make.
411.
Okay, I think I understand.
the
So
percentage of the population that is age 18 to 64 with a disability is 33.9%.
that seems really high for that age group. The 75% maybe seems a little high, but that's more understandable. But 1 out of 3 non-senior citizen adults have a disability. 1 out of 3. Wow.
If you want me to, I can pull the
No.
survey up here.
I mean, I'm not one of these census skeptics. I don't think the government makes them up, but I do think that they have to be looked at closely and questioned, because starting with the more recent census, it's like there's no humans working on it. It's computers. It's computers drawing probabilities and other sorts of things, and sometimes it comes up with some really weird things. Okay, interesting. Really high numbers.
Well,
But
I
thank you for
hate,
pointing that out. I was thinking it was total of the total.
oh, Matt.
Yeah, sorry. He
Um,
knows his Zeke is. I don't know. He's been on my mind or something.
but that's a few years ago. But I don't know what the status is on, I know that like a drastic number of working age adults leave the valley once they hit 18. So isn't that a dwindled number anyway?
And the disabled ones stay behind.
Well, that's
I mean,
where all
it's-
their caretakers are. It's where
My-
everything they know is.
Yeah, my staff knows a lot of times when you stare at a number that maybe doesn't look quite right. My question is always, well, compared to what? Is that a good number, bad number, average number? Should we be concerned? How does it compare to other cities our size? You know, that kind of thing. And but we have no basis of comparison here, so we will live with it the way that it is. I'm just wondering.
I think maybe if there was more context, it would make more sense. How many 18 to 64 do we actually have in the valley? And then that number might.
I can tell you that real quickly.
Do you guys want to recommend that as a change?
No,
Oh,
I mean, it would take somebody too much work, but they're just calling up the ACS on the census website. And if those are the numbers, those are the numbers. But
Is that the guy stomping?
Yeah.
Oh, that guy.
Stimming.
Is that what it is? Like, I worry he's gonna hurt himself.
Yeah.
People want to bet there's spiders on the street that
Yeah.
you don't see.
Yeah, I agree.
Something.
oh, you know who it is.
Yeah, he's all over.
Hangs
them.
around.
Yeah.
Ministry of Funny Walks on Monday Python.
Right?
Anyway, so,
Well, yeah, I mean, like, we like worry about his knees.
Yeah.
His feet.
oh, yeah,
Mm.
we'll.
But it's also.
We'll let that go, and thank you for
When it's
that.
exercise.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, because the way that the census breaks it down is 65 to 74 and then 75 and over. And we just put it down here as 65 plus, but you could break it down like that even more if you wanted.
You added percentages?
Yes, I did. Then okay,
Well, I don't know, no,
okay, well, if I don't, if you want to, we can come back to this. And I can
I don't want
propose
this
with
to be
you,
held, it has to go to the council.
because if there's an error,
I don't think that there is. I think that what would be more informative is to be able to track this over time. We've only got one data point, which is 2024. We'd be able to kind of tell more of the trends over time. I don't think it needs to.
well, we include this figure in each one of our annual reports.
I do remember that.
So you could technically go back to 2020 and see how has it changed over time. Because, we're looking at 5-year estimates too. So I should say that as well. It's a 5-year estimate. But if you think there's an error,
I think the stats are good. You think there's probably about 10,200 total residents between 18 and 64 in the valley or in Lewiston proper?
I'm trying to look at the numbers on my phone. They're all tiny. This year is spacing of.
Well, that would be, where'd you get that number? Oh, you took the 3,400 and tripled it?
Yes, essentially.
And the total population of 33,000, so that'd be about a third. If anything, that would seem to be.
I mean, that's the biggest
Okay,
cohort
well-
there. That should, I agree with that.
Well, see, now that I'm looking on here, I did this so many times. I looked at it,
I can ask.
but.
You can't add all the numbers about it. Because like I said, some people would fall in more than one category.
Oh, there's the city population up there. Yeah.
Yeah, right at the top.
I did not see that. Thank you.
33,846.
Yeah, so it's 33,846.
Usually with my past experience and matching census numbers, usually the percent of the population, almost everywhere in the country, ages 0 to 18 or 17, just up to 18, is usually not more than 25%.
Total population, just leave it.
About 1/4 are minors. Now that number might be coming down in some places as there are fewer children. But
If there are fewer people of childbearing age that are staying in the valley, that would even further decrease the number of 0 to 17. Further studies that show
I've done
millennials are having fewer kids.
now, I've done the presentation here on population, the aging of the valley a year or two ago. And bottom line would be this, regardless of people leaving town or not, you are correct. It's just that it doesn't happen right out of high school. It's a 15-year process of an exodus of working age people. But anyways, if you have more and more and more and more people over age 65, which we do in the valley, then it goes without saying you're going to have more and more people with disabilities. In that cohort. So, this commission has a growing constituency, if you want, or constituency. Yeah. You're a pioneer. It's just to be expected. You turn the clock back 40 years, even 30 years, people didn't live so long. So that kind of kept that number lower, but
And especially people with disabilities didn't live so long.
yes, you're right. actually that.
I see what you're saying, because the number would be against the population within that criteria, and then that's where you get a percentage. Take the number, here's the amount of people,
Mhm.
and that gives you the percentage. So this percentage could be off. The other thing that we could do is break it down by how they have it in the census, which is 5 to 17, 18 to 34, 35 to 64, 65 to 74, and then 75 and over. And maybe that would make more sense.
Especially on paper,
That's
probably.
more precise. Yeah,
Because then you wouldn't,
Why don't they have 0 to 5?
oh, I don't know, that I don't know.
I think a lot, well, I know you can get disability services, I think it's free. But it might just be services aren't widely.
Like onset, like,
Well, maybe diagnosis.
that's what I was thinking,
Yeah,
this diagnosis, maybe.
usually they check.
Like it's 5 is school age.
Yeah, I think the
When the-
reason for that is that's the school age cohort, although you could be in school, actually with disability, you could be in school up to 21. But I wonder. I mean, ultimately, it always comes down to what's the definition of a disability, and a census bureau it is whatever you say it is. If the person filling out the form marks the box, then they will count you. Because I was gonna say, I wonder if you called the school district and said 411, is that who you have enrolled in your special needs program? And it could be close, but it could also not be close because they may use different criteria, to enroll a student in special programs and IEPs and all that.
Well, they would have to have medical documentation for that.
Yeah. But as I said, you don't need medical documentation to mark the box on the census. Yeah, well, just say. But I assume. Nikki, does the city ever apply for grant money that is specifically for any aspect of disabilities, and then they submit these numbers and use these numbers as part of the grant? Because you want them to be fairly accurate. And I mean, a grant for, I don't know, disabled playground equipment, a grant for, I don't know.
Oh, possibly, yeah, I don't know for sure, but
Everybody needs these figures, because you'd want to be consistent across the board.
well, and I think it'd be more accurate, I think, if you broke it down into the actual census age group.
What's that?
You know what I mean?
Well, and does this live on your computer? This report?
Me, yeah.
Okay, well then,
Well, I mean, technically it lives in the cloud.
well, I know, but I
But
mean,
yes,
you're the one who compiles it, puts it together, so my
one of.
apology, when
Yeah,
I said was Destin gonna be 30% this. But maybe a clarification, actually, I don't know how to clarify it, but I really appreciate Matt pointing out those bottom 3 wasn't a percent of the total population, it was a percent. No, wait a minute. It is a percent of the total population. It's not a percent of all the disabled people,
Right.
and therefore should add up to 100.
well, and I think looking at
Because
these,
that's what I thought.
I just checked the numbers against each other. They do check out. I can explain that. If you want me to, I can. And then back to your question about the middle cohort there, the 18 to 64. Something to keep in mind there. The first age group is only a 12-year window. The second age group is a 46-year window.
yeah,
So basically 4 times
as many.
as many people will fall technically under that.
4 times as many years.
And I
You're
Not
not
people,
necessarily people, I agree with that. With declining birth rates, et cetera, that probably checks out even better.
I think these percentages are wrong.
Um,
Because if you go to the website and you add together the 65 plus with the 75 plus, the percentage, so that's like a total of 6,660 people. And so that percentage of 33,846, I don't think is gonna be 75%.
but you can't add the 65 plus and the 75 plus because that that counts anyone between 65 and 75 twice.
Well, no, I'm saying it's 65, so this 65 plus is adding. 65 to 74,
Oh, okay,
and then 75 plus.
okay.
So yeah, I mean, I agree that I think the percentages would be more accurate if you, and the numbers would be more accurate if you just broke it down into the actual.
All of the census
Yeah, the way the census has it broken down. That way you don't have any,
ambiguity.
yeah, well, or possible error in your calculations, you know?
The one thing you can do to kind of cross-check and just reference here, the percentage of the total population at the very top, 18.5.
Yeah.
18.5 of 33,000 comes out to 6261. And then you-
Oh,
So I think, yeah,
then you add up all of your groups in the bottom three and you get 6270 something.
6256.
So they're
Oh,
really,
they did
really
that.
close.
It's within 5. I never thought to do that. Yeah, that's a rounding error. So it's really cool. They did that. And you're not even, or no, you haven't.
Yeah. Not quite a ring, man.
Darn sure.
So what's our, speaking of,
Well, the
censuses, what's our
18.5%.
consensus?
The 18.5% comes from the census. Is it saying the percent with a disability is 18.5%?
And they could have rounded when they
They
did
could have
that.
just, yeah.
And so, depending on what significant figures they chose, we wouldn't be able to chase that down really with our skills.
Well, they always do like a plus and minus. Too, so it's like, we'll give you this number, but it's plus or minus 208 or 301, you know?
I think it's probably good. I don't have a vote.
If you guys could, you could adopt it with an amendment of breaking down the disability by age group to match the census.
I will motion to add the amendment to break down the ages to meet up with the consensus stats.
Yes.
Ooh, good.
We have a second? Oh, yeah, I can say.
Second,
Mark?
All fair.
Aye.
Aye,
I,
aye.
Constance, you seconded?
Yes.
Now, technically, we
I
only
keep
need one
forgetting.
eye, don't we?
Yeah.
For the record, because I was playing around with another thing. So what Matt said on that final lower column, percent of the total population, so that just takes the different age cohorts, which there should be no duplication, they're all
Yeah.
separate. Of the number to the left, what percent of the 33,846 population, does that represent? Okay, so that's fine and good. No, did I do that right? Did I say that right, Matt? I'm not sure I said that right. It's a percent of the total. No, I can't possibly have said that right. So what, what does that column mean again? Percent of total population.
So like the number there's 411 people.
Yes.
That's, or what is the percentage?
What is 7.4% of what is my
Of
question?
33,000.
Of 33,846. So what?
I don't think so.
It's not.
No.
It's not,
it's
no,
way
that's
too
what I'm saying.
small.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Just like
So-
75% is
Versus
not
7.4%.
2366.
Could it be
No, I'm telling you
7.
the percentages are wrong.
Could it be 7.4% of the total population of 5 to 17?
Oh, yes,
Oh, it's
It could
probably
be.
411.
it could be, but that number is not on here.
But then,
we
so
should wait
instead
for
of
us to
total
correct
of-
that.
Percent of total population, it would be percent of population with
No,
disability.
you're right.
Well, it would be the
That is-
population between 5 and 17.
Yes, and
What
that is what,
400?
and that is what
constitute?
Matt said,
Yeah.
20 minutes ago. Yeah, he had it right. So the percent of the population of that cohort, which we don't see here.
That cohort represents 7.4% of the total population of. So all of the
People 5 to
disabled people,
17.
yes. That is their,
Maybe we should add.
Well, we're not 100% sure of that either.
well,
Well,
that's,
there's
No, I
I
think,
think that's why
I
we
think
made the
it's-
motion to have it.
I think it, whatever that is, as 5 to 17 should be closer to 25% of the population, children, in most population groups. Close to 25%, and the 411 would be 7.4% of that age
25%.
group.
Yeah, and that number comes from this whole system.
Oh, I know what they need to do. All they need to do is add a category of how many
Yeah,
are age 5 to 17. How many
Hard to say.
so there just needs to be another column.
And then so that would be more clarifying, I think, so
Yeah.
that you would be able to, because it's the total population of that cohort is what needs to be.
Yeah, not
Actually,
of the 33,846.
so the only correction you would need to make, Heather, Vicky, sorry,
Yeah,
we're all naming it. So,
I answer to a lot of different names.
on the bottom three, it says total or percent of total population, put in parentheses behind that of age cohort. Of
Oh.
each age cohort. And then that would clarify what we're actually looking at,
Well, I was thinking we could add another column with the population.
the total
Yeah.
population
That
of
It's
each.
like this
cohort.
breaks it down, 5 to 17 is 5,521. So 411 out
Yeah,
of that number,
That's
So
seventy.
you have to.
yeah.
And
So that
and
might
of
be
course,
good.
those three numbers won't add up to 33,846 because you're leaving out 0 to 5.
Yeah.
Okay,
0 to 4.
that's good to know. Now, for what it's worth,
Mhm.
and if any of you want to write this down, and I'm not suggesting you have to put this in the report. I did the same math that Matt did. So you add up the three numbers for the number of people actually disabled,
Yeah.
5 to infinity, 6,256. And then I calculated the percentages. Well, each age group is what percent of 6 to 56. And in case you're interested, you can handwrite this down. 5 to 17 is 6.5%. 18 to 64, which is the largest number there, is 55.6%. And over age 65 is 37.8%.
Yeah.
And those do add up to 100, well,
100.
99.9%. So that number could kind of sort of have relevancy to this commission's work if the subject ever came up. No, the largest percentage of people living with disabilities within this city are not senior citizens. They are ages 18 to 64.
Mhm.
They are, in the prime of life and perhaps working age and so on and so forth. And I think that is a relevant thing to know. I mean, you know it by the number there, 3,479 versus 2,366, but on a percentage level, that's a relevant thing to
It's
know
half the number.
for people who have a stereotype. Yeah, it's over half. Stereotype that, oh, well, disabled people, that's just a bunch of old people. And
I never thought that.
I do think it is, I think it's more prevalent than you know in the Trees Valley, bro.
the stereotype,
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, especially for those of us who work exclusively with seniors, that well, you don't work exclusively with senior citizens, but
Well, and
you
that's the
think
working population.
Yeah,
That's the working population.
it is definitely valid information.
But that's where I was questioning. So you can't question the 55.6% that I just read off because that's a percent of all disabled people. But to say that 33.9% of all people ages 18 to 64 have a disability, that's a third. That's a lot.
No, that 33.9 is wrong.
It's wrong. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. That's what it just seems odd.
Yeah, there's the 39.9 and the 75.6, those are wrong. The 7.4 is accurate
Okay.
because that is the actual age group that's reflected on the census.
Yeah. I mean, just imagine how many just in job applications you'd be getting there. So if 1 out of 3 of them were people with disabilities. Okay, so that'll get fixed.
That'll get fixed to match the census
Glad
and
everyone
then
had
do
equal interest in numbers.
a column.
So to answer that question, Mark. The 18 to 64 group, I just ran that one against the total population. So the total population of those 18 to 64 is 10% of the population. Is the total population. Because you got the age group right there is reflected, and you can run that
If that's
against.
true, then that would mean if you compared it just to their own age cohort, it's gonna be more than 10%,
Right.
but probably not 33.
No,
Okay,
I can tell you that,
a big number.
18 to 34 is 14.9%. And then 35 to 64 is gonna be 19%.
If you got those numbers handy, then I suppose that's the best way to just do it.
Yeah, I
Oh,
mean,
and that's what we motioned for, right?
yeah, was to add those, yeah. To break this down into the actual breakdown the census does,
Yeah,
not
that's-
adding population.
No, but that, I'm not a mathematician. I can't explain this in the best words. You can't add percentages.
So I
Oh, okay.
I
Means
understand.
You have to add the total.
You add the
and then-
total
And then
numbers.
redivide it.
Yeah.
Essentially the ratios of, yeah.
And then 65 to 44 is gonna be 22.7%. And then 75 and over is the 52.9%.
Okay.
So they basically percentages progressively get larger.
And that makes sense.
7.4, 14.9, 19, 22.7, and 52.9.
It was fun trying to track down the number of
Yeah, nicely.
older people who don't drive.
Math on Duolingo.
I mean, that's an impossible number. We have tried for
I'm very
years.
excited about it.
What percentage of people above certain ages no longer drive, no longer get a driver's license, no longer, this, that, the other thing. And it's like, no one pins that down. Nobody tracks that. You get a number from the driver's license bureau of suspended licenses. So if you moved here at age 92 from another state and you didn't have a license, so you never applied for an Idaho driver's license, well, you don't count. You're invisible. And then you ask the insurance companies, well, how many of these people have car insurance, And then you ask, you get a number from AARP and none of it matches. And it's like, we're just trying to find out, when do people quit driving? As you go through the years, and it's,
And that's incredibly informative for a community.
and that
When I
no one.
their license doesn't even necessarily need to be suspended. My dad had my grandma's
Right,
car.
right.
He's away from her.
It doesn't, but
It's never.
they're able to track, year by year by year driver's license renewals. And so then if it's not renewal, and I go, but then they might be dead, or they might have moved away, or they just didn't renew their license.
Yeah, they're
But
still
you-
driving.
But you don't know, you don't know. So whatever, we continue to plug away and try to work on that number, because that would help our planning.
I think it would.
As it's like, as the people continue to live and get older and older and older, and when they quit driving, you would think the transit program would be interested in that too, but they don't seem
Have
to
you looked
care.
on the state's website for their annual reporting?
No, but again, I don't know where they would drive their numbers. Because as I said, if you already don't have a driver's license when you move into Idaho or move into Nez Perce County, and therefore you're not applying for a driver's license, you are a non-driving person, but you're invisible to the state because you haven't applied for one. You're invisible, so they have their limitations. Anyway,
Okay, so we will update those numbers.
Just a random question on that line, Nikki. We have, as a city, and I don't know this is full of ignorance. We have the ability to request, more nuance to the census when we send it. The state does it on behalf of the federal, right?
And yeah, I don't know.
I don't know, if we had the ability to
no,
put,
the Census Bureau doesn't go through states, as far as I know. They do their own.
They do their own.
I wonder if we would be able to, I don't know, it would be interesting to be able to add that question if it was for local use.
Oh.
Because other communities would benefit from that knowledge as well, I imagine.
Well, if you remember the every 10-year census, there's the short version, and then about 1 out of every 20 people get the long version. That is pages and pages and pages. Do you rent? Do you own?
Right.
And which is great. It's a lot of information. I've done the long version. I don't remember that driving is a question there, because it's like the Census Bureau doesn't care. Most people in New York City don't drive. They don't own a car, they don't drive, regardless of age. But anyway,
But then you wanna know how many people use
Might-
public transportation.
Might need the public access.
you would want to, but so they sort of just derive estimates and extrapolations based on the best that they know. So even when I said, well, if only 1 out of 20 people get the long version, then how do they really know? Well, because they take that number and multiply by 20. They just assume that if it's a random sample, they can interpret it across a much broader population. And sometimes we question that because there's differences between urban, rural,
Mhm.
and Idaho, where it's hard to live without a car versus Seattle. So, the important thing is just always to ask questions, ponder if this sounds right or doesn't sound right, and act accordingly.
Do you, like, on that note, do you think there's anything missing from this report? That the public would wanna know?
Well, you have ambulatory. The other number there, that is that's the single highest number. I kind of wish Eric was still on the commission here, so that's the single highest number of
There's a
disability,
big-
9.2%. But that doesn't tell you, are they in a wheelchair and can't walk, or do they just use a cane or a walker? It doesn't tell you. Because of course, Eric himself technically doesn't have a wheelchair, just that adds safety to his condition. But, knowing what percentage of people can't walk at all and they're dependent on a wheelchair for the reasons of curb cuts and things like that would be useful to know, but I don't know that you would get that out of Census Bureau.
No, I don't feel like it's, you only get what they do, what they have,
So we'd be relying entirely on self-reports.
I mean, gosh, it'd be useful
They
just to
do.
know about just where to place sidewalks. But
Cause they do like disability type.
one time I suggested it back during the COVID era, when there was a statewide Zoom meeting of what they call Centers for Independent Living, which is disability action. You work at disability action. Someone on
Jolene.
Jolene does, yeah. But this doesn't involve her, but on this Zoom meeting that met once a month, and I suggested having that kind of information. I think I mentioned this a few years ago. And the people who work for the DAC-like organizations around Idaho, the Centers for Independent Living, freaked. Because they said, no, we don't want to be on a list.
Or tracking.
Disabled people don't want to be on a list.
Oh,
And right, and it was this great, yeah, but what about, the power goes out and firefighters need to come to your door. And one person on there actually said, if I got a knock on the door at 2:00 in the morning, I'd answer with my gun. This is a person on the Zoom meeting in a wheelchair. And they just don't want to be on a list. And then they were horrified. This is actually where the whole conversation started. That Medicare, probably Medicaid, keep that kind of list when they pay for your wheelchair, when they pay for your oxygen tanks, when they keep that list and they share it with the local utility companies. So Vista has the list of people dependent on electric provided equipment that keeps you alive. And they were horrified. How do we get our names off this list? We don't want to be on the list. Why don't we want to be on the list? Well, because the list could leak and then burglars could target people with disabilities to break into your house.
Or the government can use that list to
Yeah, I know.
get people on
Anyway,
names.
I simply say it's an alternative point of view. It's like these people are trying to save your life. We don't care. We don't want to be on the list. So the idea of knowing how many people are in wheelchairs, it has to just be based on random samples and estimates because nobody wants to admit it and be honest.
Well, I remember that I brought to DAC when I very first started. It was called, I think it was Isaiah's alert,
Yeah.
which they have up in Spokane, where you self-report and put yourself on a list so that if your family calls 911, they don't have to go through doesn't communicate, they need this, this, and this, these are their behaviors, like, they don't have to go through all that, boom, it's already in the system.
Hmm.
And I thought it was a really great idea, so
Yeah.
say I have a developmental disability where I get violent, etc., I get in trouble, somebody calls for me. It's like that would be
Well,
really
and-
useful.
Informing first responders, like,
Yeah,
you give them the opportunity, you give them the tools to respond appropriately.
But what I had not considered was not that people didn't want to admit they had a disability, is that they did not want to be on a national registry for having one, which I think is fair given some you know where I'm going with that one.
Or
Like
even,
for people who are autistic, they're trying to establish a
Yeah, fears
national
that they're gonna-
registry.
years, yeah.
Yeah,
or even a local.
for nefarious purposes.
Even a local registry. Well, since I've explained it to you, first off, it makes complete sense. Medicaid and Medicare would know if they paid for your equipment. So yeah, you think they're gonna purge that information? But you know, it's money. I don't know that the national government cares, but when it was determined that, oh yeah, Avista knows. And when Travis Michaelbus was the fire chief, I asked him about it, you know, and he said, yeah, we've got a list. I said, where'd you get it from? From Avista. So they know, and as I said, people around Idaho, and it was universal. The people with disabilities or who represented people, it's like, we don't want to be on a local
This
list.
would be a
Yeah,
HIPAA
and-
violation.
Now, an
They probably signed something for Medicaid that's like, you think
Right,
share
right,
who they
right.
want.
an opt-in would be a better system. And Isaac, I don't know if that was local or national or whatever,
I
but.
think they were trying to make it national. It was developed in, I believe, Spokane. It was regional and they were trying to take it national, but I think a lot of people had fears about being on a national
I think
registry.
it's useful.
People
Okay.
with them don't wanna be on the national.
I think it's useful for, you know, our commission to be aware of it, and there's nothing we can really do about it. But we just wanna know that that's why data is always a little fuzzy.
Well, the census does break down the type of disability.
Yeah, that's where you
So-
got this.
Well, no, that's the. Oh, well, yeah, but then it breaks it down by age too.
Yeah, I was just saying you can't assume everyone with ambulatory difficulties in a wheelchair. You can't assume that. And
Maybe
that,
somebody with
that's-
cerebral palsy.
But I guess what I'm saying is the census takes it even further and says, okay, yes, this type of disability. But then each population, the amount of people. So it breaks it down even more. So that would be another way that you could redo. If you wanted to put more information on here, specific to the age, to the type of disability.
Could you even just put a link on here for more information?
Well, yeah, and we do source it,
Mhm.
source US Census, so.
the American Community Survey is the Census Bureau's effort to keep the figures current, not every 10 years and updated every year. But it's based on a very, very, very small random sample. So I've never received it, but for a community our size, it might be 30 people get either the phone call or the survey in the mail.
And that's what they base each year off of.
Yeah, because they don't have the money to do huge random samples. But they do it across the country and then they adjust figures. Because like I said, they'll take that little number and then they'll have a multiplier against the population that it was sampling.
I can see it.
So,
Just where the plus and minus, so many come from.
so we look at it every year, and look at it and decide whether or not we think it is flawed. If there's any time, and it can wait to the end, yeah, there's a scenario of what you're talking about. Constance, that I would share a story having to do with a person needing a guardian living alone. And how useful that would be if first responders knew. And I can share some information without names or any kind of confidentiality or regulation, but I'm not gonna take time now if we have more to cover.
Well, I do have a small like future agenda or commissioner comments that I'm thinking of. Mr. Eric Peterson, he would love this conversation that I'm gonna bring up.
So are we adopting this with
Sure.
the
The amendment,
change, the amendment?
yes.
Okay.
You wanna
think we already voted on it.
Yeah.
Didn't we?
Yeah, we just got that done.
I just wanna make sure.
Approval of meeting minutes from April 9th. I did not see anything that.
You said that I missed that.
Right, yeah, I'll move adoption as submitted.
I going to third it, so I don't think we need a.
Yeah.
I think that this.
I.
Hey. I don't know, I kind of want, because I want to talk about, I'm a little upset. Future agenda items, I'm gonna actually back Eric a little bit. I was really snotty with him about it before, but about crosswalks in Lewiston, especially downtown, are horrific. I've almost been hit 3 times in as many weeks in downtown
You mean
Lewiston.
not painted or enforced?
It's painted, the flashing lights, and people are not stopping. And there was one time it came so close I could have touched the car with my hand.
Oh, jeez.
That's 3 times in 3 weeks. And after the one last night, I was finally mad enough that,
Well,
So you want it on the future agenda?
yeah, for us to
Crosswalks?
talk about crosswalks.
Is there anyone you'd want us to invite? I mean, police or streets or?
Yeah, I guess patrol.
I mean, it sounds like it's.
What about, is that the community enforcement? Guys, do they still
enforcement,
Code
that's
enforcement.
more.
code
That's
enforcement?
more.
How about
somebody.
Yeah, you're
Oh,
talking
the
about the
community,
guy.
yeah, the bike guys.
Yeah, I didn't want to call them the bike cops, but
Yeah.
Well, we can talk the chief and see what he thinks.
Would be the best representative.
Yeah.
Well, and if
just
that's
to monitor, like, how do you monitor crosswalks and ensure that people are actually
So you're
abiding by
not-
what it tells you to do?
well, maybe they have a plan.
You're not specifically targeting downtown Lewiston.
No, but it's a really good example of, like, if somebody was in a wheelchair,
Well, I knew that
nobody's gonna see
if you
them.
were,
Because
if you
that's the
were,
2 lanes is
you-
where,
you
I'm-
could ask for you could ask the chamber to send someone from the beautiful downtown Lewiston board. I mean, they merged with the chamber only to the extent they could no longer afford a staff member, but as I understand it, there's still a beautiful downtown Lewiston board of directors. It's still a entity. And maybe and they represent the merchants and whatnot, and maybe the merchants don't care.
it actually might not be a bad idea, because I do think it's the 2-lane one-way that provides a certain amount of unique opportunity to get hit by a car.
Well, and
It's
with the-
each 3 times was somebody in a different lane going, didn't see me. Or
Car
last
stopped,
night.
But another car didn't stop.
Mhm.
Oh,
Or the
no,
one last
yeah, I
night,
always-
the guy, I was crossing D Street and I was going from Brackenberry to D Street parking. The guy in the left lane had stopped for me.
Uh-huh.
And usually it's the guy in the right lane just keeps flying. Like, I'm
Yeah.
used to that. It's unfortunate and again, but the guy behind the
Went
person
around.
went around him.
Oh, yeah.
Because
Just
he
what,
thought-
mad because he stopped? Like, he
Well,
was
maybe-
stopping for a reason.
And there's a lot of.
And he blew
insecurity.
past the crosswalk and then got back into the left lane.
People just weren't
So
paying
he was
attention,
just
too big of a hurry.
mad that he had to stop. Like, I don't know if the crosswalk wasn't,
The assumption could have been made that the person was actually parallel parking, because that is one of the problems with.
It's-
downtown.
it was not
Left
the-
side.
well, it
It's
was,
because you can parallel on both sides of the street, and so if somebody just stops in the lane to allow somebody in, if you're following behind them, you can then.
Not on D-
Not at that crosswalk.
Not right there.
there's no.
There's no parking
Right.
at all on
Okay.
either side.
Except
except
for
for
the half.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
sorry,
that
sorry,
there's
nope.
anything wrong with that.
Thank you for keeping
Because
it.
I
Oh,
mean, it really goes back to not even an enforcement thing. Lewiston is a car-oriented, not pedestrian-oriented city versus Moscow,
Mhm.
where people are stopping on a dime to let college students cross, not even at a crosswalk, just in the middle of the street. And everyone's always stopping and you need to be alert for that. And then you come down here and Moscow people will say, my God, I nearly get run over when they try to cross the street because nobody's stopping.
Well, and I think it's like
It's a culture.
education too on crosswalks, because I actually was in Clarkston and I was in traffic and I happened to be on a crosswalk and Eric comes by and I was like, oh, and he made it across, but it was like, I didn't even think about it. Didn't even see it.
Now, where I'm gonna disagree with Eric was
Mhm.
Eric wanted to educate people that they could just about cross wherever. and that drivers needed to know they could cross wherever. Whereas I want drivers to be aware
Of the crosswalk.
of the crosswalks and that flashing lights.
light one. But
They are
those
flashing
aren't working
lights.
because that's, yeah, that one has a flashing
They
light
are
one.
flashing lights.
I like the flashing lights because sometimes you do get like you're focused on the road and you got this.
Well, you're in your head.
Unfortunately, but
And then it's like,
unfortunately in downtown Lewiston, the
flashing
trees
light.
kind of distract
Yeah.
from the flashing
And
lights.
people don't.
Yeah, they don't go to 20.
Yeah.
The flags disappeared. So those were a nice idea for a minute,
Well,
but
But maybe the police have a plan.
Next time.
You know, that's the problem.
Next month, I'll, get back and share some information, first of all, from Clarkson, because Clarkson's situation is actually worse than I thought. In terms of pedestrian accidents in certain intersections. And then also how several years ago, this commission, probably before all of you, discussed this and nobody liked my idea. God, was it vetoed quickly, the reverse sidewalks, where the sidewalks are raised up to the level of the sidewalk, and then the cars have to slow down because it's like a giant speed bump. And nobody, and I said, oh, the first place to put this in is at D and Third Street, because you're already ripping up the street and everything. And, you know, and so it's very clear when you get to the intersection, you are in the pedestrians' property space.
see, I'm
Because
that
you have to-
passive aggressive enough that I would love that.
Cities, it started in the Netherlands and it has spread around, and pedestrian accidents at intersections, not jaywalkers,
Mhm.
falls to almost zero. But oh my God, when I brought it up to this, we can't do that. Oh my God, no one would do that. It would be very costly. And drivers would just scream and, you know, blah, blah, blah.
I've seen it where, well, we can talk about it next week.
Yeah.
Yeah, we could ask Jason Hill.
Jason Thompson.
Oh, Jason Thompson, yeah. And I did hear back from UGM. They just weren't available this month. So I'm gonna call it back about next month.
Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
Well, let me quit mine off. As long as one of these days I am gonna step out in front of a car. It depends on how my day has been and if I feel like getting hit. But to prove a point, I will take one for the team.
Don't do that.
Well, I mean,
Thinking about it, and the fact that I'm thinking about it is what upsets me.
it'd be interesting to know even,
Or a mandated order.
number of people. How many people in the city, statistics every year get hit in a crosswalk?
Well, usually if you're struck by a car, then it's nothing that, you know, someone's signed it and all that, but close calls are never reported anymore.
Like, could
Yeah.
we put security cameras at crosswalks downtown?
Oh,
Probably already.
Yeah.
but you're
That's
suggesting
the,
that,
that's the conversation for.
you're suggesting
Yeah.
that one-way streets with lanes is that a special problem? Actually, I think where the problem is most prevalent is left turns. Where cars want to make a left turn and they have the flashing yellow light, so you know, what is it, yield to oncoming traffic. But there should be yielding to the pedestrians
Yeah.
also in that crosswalk.
Yeah.
And they don't look, and so it's like, oh, there's an opening, I'm making a left turn here. and
Yeah,
they
right.
run
Yeah,
into
people
it.
just
Yeah.
have impatient.
Right turns
Yeah,
especially
they're
are bad.
hurrying.
I've just been noticing a lot more because it's.
And I think in a weird
Walking
way.
around,
they
put
want
it
people are-
on there.
they become
Well, and
more
it doesn't have to
aggressive
be
because
next
they feel
month.
Pressure
Yeah.
from other aggressive drivers.
Maybe I'll
to be
take
more
my own
aggressive.
statistic.
So let me,
For July?
Yeah.
I mean, I was gonna wait commissioner comments, but
But it's
this
not out there
this
anymore.
could be a future agenda item.
Okay.
I just say nothing.
Um. So it's the scenario, I said I want to share a scenario, but that this could be a growing scenario is people with disabilities, sometimes even profound, but not profound enough to be living in a care facility and they're living on their own, you know, maybe with some help, you know, some support. So defined broadly, it would be grandparents raising grandchildren. We've all heard about that.
Mhm.
And then what happens when the grandparent passes away or is no longer able to do it? And well, you may hear about it just because the parents out of the picture passed away or out of the picture in jail, you know, whatever. And you assume the kids are fine. But in a lot of cases, the grandchildren are not fine. I know several cases they have disabilities, but I sit on the county's guardianship board, and so we were approached a few months ago, and this is working its way through the system to the process where grandma who's in her 80s, you know, approached and said, I'm on hospice. I have been diagnosed with terminal cancer and I'm on hospice. I need to get everything prepared here because I'm the only person for my grandson who's in his 20s, severely autistic, can't really manage himself, needs a guardian, and also predominantly just speaks Japanese. Yay! You're real close to, right? Because he was brought over from Japan. That's a whole nother story. And so, yeah, so it's like, all right, well, there's really no option here. So the county would take guardianship of this young man, probably for the rest of its life. And that's a whole nother issue, is the guardianship board is not really, it was never really designed to be someone's guardian for 60 years. But he's not going into a care facility. He's going to continue to live at home, and he has some basic understandings of what's going on. And so it's a disabled person living on their own with certain degrees of community support, but even to this extent has to have public guardian because there's nobody abandoned by his Japanese mother. So,
And we can put it on.
well, it kind of goes back to the kernel of, what is a disability and what is the scope of this commission. But I think we're going to be seeing more and more of this. I happen to know a grandmother whose son has she lives with and oversees her son, who's probably in his 40s, severe mental issues and all kinds of things, and never leaves home. And then has her grandson now, who is school age in high school. And she's even said, I don't know what's going to happen to them when I pass. I don't know what's going to happen. Now, if that discussion sounds interesting, even just for the education of this group, probably we could get the coordinator of the county guardianship board, Allison Wright. Oh, why are you laughing? You know who she is?
Oh, yeah.
She's one of my very good friends.
I think that,
Didn't know she was the
I
coordinator.
do think it would be beneficial to have that conversation and
I
then
think
have it on
any
public
information-
record as well, because I'm looking through my caseload in my head right now, and I think I've got about 4 cases right now that with a very
Of
similar
older people taking care.
raising 2 or 1 or 2 generations while they're trying to age.
Who are all the younger ones are also disabled.
They are disabled or dependent on the elderly person who is disabled and requires the assistance. So it's
Imagine Jessica's had plenty
Oh,
of.
yeah.
it's a real problem.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
I
it very
agree.
well may be one where the city goes, not our problem, that's a county problem. That's not gonna be in our jurisdiction.
But as long as they're here, they're
So
still.
let's face it, most of them won't be living in the city of Lewiston. They're not living out there. But, yeah, I just see this as a growing.
Yeah, I think that would
We've
be
never
helpful.
had a county board that young presented to our guardianship board in their 20s, and it led to lots of discussion.
Yeah, I bet.
Where do we go with this? What do we do with this?
Okay, I think that would be great.
And it does that, obviously not next month, but somewhere down the line, and you all know how.
Yes.
She is actually following my cat right now.
Yeah, must have a guardian.
Yes, I like that.
Thank you all.
Any setback on comments? Nothing, you're adjourned.
Are we, who's our liaison again, Cassie?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an email. from her.
Is she-
Which I just not be able.
Okay, well, we can't make them come, but.
She was planning on it. She said another meeting came up.
I gotta be back
Okay.
to another meeting myself.
So are we ready to be done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, Heather.